Well, welcome to the Grauman's Chinese, the Grauman's Chinette, they call this up here, but look at it, a packed house here on Sunday afternoon to see this film.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for staying. It really means a lot.
And Clint, this first appeared in our lives at the Sundance Film Festival all the way at the beginning of the year, and it was terrific there. And now, finally, it's getting its release through Netflix. It'll be in theaters first, and then on Netflix. Can you talk about, though, how this idea came about? Because it is so poignant, and there are so many themes running through it that people of all walks of life it will resonate with, I think. So is it personal to you as well? How did this come about? I know it's from a novella by Denis Johnson.
It's from a novella by Denis Johnson, and I had read this one way back in the day when it came out, like 2014 or something, and fell in love with all Denis's writing, but actually hadn't thought about ever making it into a film. It's not a book when you read it that lends itself to a film easily. And then there were some producers who had the rights to the book, Marissa McMahon, Ashley Schlafer, and Will Janowitz. They had been, some of whom might be here today, but they had the rights for a while, had been trying to find a filmmaker to make it. And then they saw Jockey at Sundance, which was in a pandemic year, 2021, so they all saw it at home. And asked me to consider making it into a film, and when I reread it, not only did I fall in love with this story of Robert Grainier and what this guy was going through, but the same thing that you just said, I felt, which is, even though it's set in the past and it's in this very specific time at the turn of the century and it's about a logger in the Pacific Northwest, I felt like a lot was resonating in my life. And a lot felt very pertinent to today and what we're going through, and I felt like, well, I'm sure other people will feel that way as well.
Well, it's so right for these times, because the world is moving at a faster pace than I've ever seen, and it's how do you adjust to that? How do you fit in? Where is your place in it? And that's really Robert here, as we see his life, which I love that we're seeing his whole life. And what he did, what he accomplished, what he didn't, the grief, the love, the loss, the happiness, everything.
Or do you not fit in and you just retreat to your cabin out in the woods? You know? Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of us feel, no matter what age, you know, I talk to people in their 60s and I talk to people in their 20s who say the same thing, which is like, everything feels like it's moving so quickly and so fast, and I don't know where I fit into all of it. So
we can slow down a little bit like they did this afternoon, and take it in, because that's what this is. First of all, great cinematography and a beautiful score as well. So, did it look good on the big screen? I think I'd had to, right? Okay. And great performances here. Joel, this is the role you've been waiting for, I think, everything coming together on this character, because you really bring it.
Thank you. I mean, it does feel to me, as with Clint, when I had read the novella as well, well before he reached out to me. And then since reading the novella, I'd become a father and a husband, and, I felt like there was so much of Robert's life that I could connect with. And, of course, what happens now that you've seen the film, what happens to him with his family is my greatest fear. And more than any other character I've had the pleasure of playing in the last number of years, it felt like the most personal thing for me. And it felt, I know it sounds like a really boring word, but I think it's very apt. It felt very suitable for who I am, that I could approach it in a very unencumbered way and just open up parts of myself and give them to the film and to Clint, who I think has done just such a marvelous job with the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, and so much of it is said without dialogue with your character here, which, they always say great acting is in the eyes. It really is here. You're saying so much without saying anything.
Yeah, well, in life, I have a hard time shutting up. I don't know. I'm glad Clint didn't know me that well before he asked me about doing the film. But yeah, no, and that takes a different kind of focus for me. And I've had a bit of experience with characters that are very quiet and stoic before in a very different way.
Loving, I think, was one.
Loving
like
is
that.
what I'm thinking about. Yeah, and it just takes a different kind of focus and trust in the whole experience. But the journey of Robert and what he goes through, I think so many people can connect with. Certainly, individually anyway, everybody can connect with a lot of the aspects of it. That it felt like it didn't feel like too daunting a task, actually.
How did you go about casting it? Did you have Joel in mind, or what was that process like?
In the writing it, I didn't think about anybody. When I was writing it with Greg Cuidar, my writing partner, we were just trying to get Grainier right and trying to find that balance of, you want to be true to the character of somebody who he has deep feelings and things that he is questioning about the world, but he doesn't quite have the words to say them. And then when it came around to think about who could play it, I would hope we would be so lucky for Joel to say yes. As somebody to everything that you're saying, it's just he's has such a way with being subtle and doing so much with so little and just with a look. And so we were very lucky that he said yes.
Yeah. And what about these guys sitting down here too? Because what's so great? What's so great about this movie is that people come in and out of his life, and we meet them, and they're so memorable in the time we get to spend with them. Let me start with Arn here, William H. Macy, who's played his share of memorable characters. But this is right at the top of the list, Bill. It really is. And, it had to be, you had to know when you got this script that this would be something special.
I did. I liked the script enormously. And I think I called you, I called my agent and said, yeah, I want to do this. Anybody who gets a chance to play somebody called Arn Peoples would be a fool to not do it.
So what was it about Arn? The whole developing the voice for him and the physicality and the way you played him. Yeah.
Not a clue. I thought when I read it, I sort of heard a Southern accent, especially that soft Southern accent. I'm a woodworker. I planted a lot of trees in my life, so it sort of got me in my soft parts. And with me, it's the script. The script read magnificently, and I knew I wanted to do it immediately.
And this is such a kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a tone poem in many ways, watching this movie. And what did you think when you read the script about this? Because in the wrong hands, I guess it might not have worked as well as it did, but it's so beautifully rendered here, this story.
I think we can all take credit that we heard the music in it, and you're right, it's poetical and it's got a beautiful tune to it, and I thought everybody did a really good job. The film matches what I saw in my head when I read it.
Had you read the novella?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And you didn't go back to it once you got the role just to see?
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm always curious, it's like maybe...
I don't know. Sometimes the source material, maybe if I'd been number one on the call sheet, I would have read it, but I didn't... I had a feeling they weren't looking for notes from me, so I didn't give any.
But speaking of tunes, though, he wrote that song that he sings in the book, or in the movie, and that plays at the end that caps the movie off.
Oh, really?
It was one of those things. There were quite a few of these little things that were just kind of like... And then Arn keeps talking, and it's just an ellipses, And I figured, we'll just fade out kind of on his conversation. He's like, well, what if I did a little bit of this? And then would just come up with the most beautiful, monologue ever. Or with the song, it was just, I thought he would maybe just like hum a couple bars of something. And he's like, well, I came up with this little thing. And it was just this beautiful, beautiful song. And
it'll be on the soundtrack, right?
Yes.
So buy the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I spoke very quickly.
Yeah. I saw it roll by at the end, available on Netflix Music. So
You'll hear it in a dance hall somewhere soon. You can really dance to it.
Wow, you're suddenly a songwriter now doing this too. And Kerry, again, it's like that. Claire comes in, you really love her, you love what she's doing in his life and everything, and then she goes away. But it's such a beautiful performance here. And I'm going to keep using the word memorable because I just keep thinking about these characters in here.
Yeah, I kind of liked that about it, that it was someone that comes in and it's not a romance for him, that she comes in and kind of touches him on a deeper level, and then she was gone. It was the script as a whole that I thought was beautiful, and I was like, I just want to be in this movie. It doesn't really matter that I'm only in it a little bit. It's just such a beautiful film that I want my name to be associated with it. Also, you were talking about like how beautiful it was made. Jockey, Clint's first movie, like I have a lot of experience with the racetrack. So when I saw that it was so authentic and it was made on such a low budget and it was shot so beautifully, that immediately I was like, well, if that's what he did with like barely any money, and I know that that was legit because I had been on the backside of the racetrack. And then knowing it was the same DP from Jockey, I was like, this is going to be beautiful. Like, if they shoot it like I read it, it actually kind of was nicer than my mind, I think, when I saw it. It was as spiritual as I hoped it would be.
And the accent that you developed for this, too, because you may notice she's not an American.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was something as well, you know, because I filmed it while I was filming F1, so it was a big flip, you know, to change over. But thankfully, Clint was like, these were first generation. So we don't really know what first generation people sounded like, right? You know, like they carried accents from overseas and whatnot. So I was allowed to relax a little bit. Not that much, though.
Yeah, exactly. So Teddy, you are the producer Black Bear, which is making numerous films. He just had another premiere here last night, a movie called Christie, which is one of his. So he's a busy guy, and Black Bear is behind this film. It's made independently. It didn't have a distributor. Netflix did not go into the Sundance Film Festival with it. They bought it later. Can you talk about how this movie came about for you and why you thought it was important to make?
Sure. You know, I had the pleasure of really getting to know Clint and Greg incredibly well from making Sing Sing with them. And another project where we read the script and said, well, this is very hard. These are people who are trying to capture magic, you know, and just bottle something special that on paper doesn't necessarily feel like it will have huge reach. But if you can bring that karma, that chemistry, that integrity, and that heart, there's a chance that you do something magical. And I take no credit for that movie, other than saying yes to Clint and to Greg.
The movie you referenced was Sing Sing.
Yeah, in Sing Sing,
for which he was nominated for Academy Award for original screenplay.
Correct. So really, all we're good at is just knowing that a screenplay is good. And then while we were in post-production on that project, Clint said, "I've got another one," and we read it, and it was just the most moving, spiritual, human script that we had ever read, and trying to encapsulate, you know, in one man's sort of, you know, non-special journey, something incredibly universal that could speak to all of us in this room and hopefully those outside, just about the power of our shared experience, right? And I think there's some part of this film that talks about, you know, a world that's passing us by, but I think what really spoke to us was the fact that through the multiple decades that this film spans, the understanding of what does matter in life, right? And it's not necessarily your greatest achievements, but it's it's the hands that you hold and the hugs that you give and the laughters by a fireside. It's the things that you lose and the things that you hold on to. And I just thought that Clint and Greg had adapted that into a screenplay that somehow took, a very beautiful novella that Denis Johnson had written into something just magical. And so we wanted to be a part of that process. And then it became, how do you render that on a physical standpoint? How do you will that into life? And it became the fun complications that always happen with productions. I think we first tried to make this during the dual strikes that were ongoing. Thought that we had a little bit of a waiver. Clint jumped on a plane, ended up in Washington State, and then we found out that there was no movie, and there wasn't going to be a movie for a long time. And Clint, unfortunately, was stuck having, I don't know whether I should be telling this story, but you.
Oh yeah, please continue.
It's good.
But where were you stuck?
But Clint was prepared to make a movie, and so I think you rented out your house back in Texas, and you realized, well, now I'm on the banks of the Moray River, and I think I'm going to be here for a long time. So you ended up being there for a couple months and really just soaking in and absorbing the landscape and using that time. Not only was that where you were when you wrote the screenplay, but to really just to meet people and to feel the texture, of not only the land but of the society that had evolved, but also some areas that hadn't quite as much. So. Anyway, I'm talking way too much, but it was a huge honor to be able to will this into existence.
And in line with what he's talking about too, this was all shot in natural light. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. It was all shot in natural light. All of the fire stuff and the candlelight stuff, that's all lit by fires and candlelight.
Wow, how very Stanley Kubrick of you.
It's a little easier now with digital cameras than what he had. It's a lot
With
harder
Barry Lyndon, which
with
was
Barry Lyndon, which was here. Yeah, last night.
That was here, yeah, somewhere. Yeah, but that's so interesting because it's. I mentioned the cinematography. Who is the cinematographer?
Adolpho Veloso is the cinematographer, and he's incredible. Yeah.
It's so beautiful to look at. You just it's like paintings going by here.
And he's amazing at it, and I think the thing that's very rare about what he does that makes something like that possible on screen, that I'm very happy to work with and will take no credit for, is he has this ability to, within natural light, whether it's a sunset or not, or next to a fire, to give the actors mostly full freedom in what they're doing and let them kind of find their way through it. And then he follows them and finds his way with the camera. It's very rare that he's like, okay, we need to be here and then we need to end up over there. And yet I know that he's following them and just making beautiful images along the way when it would, I think, in other hands kind of get a bit sloppy.
Speaking of making beautiful music, Bryce Dessner did the score and did a great job. And he's a terrific musician in so many ways. But when I first saw it at Sundance, it didn't have that Train Dreams theme song at the end.
We didn't have the Nick Cave song yet.
Yeah, and now you do. So you, this audience, is among the first to actually hear the song, even though the movie was seen at Sundance. The song wasn't. And what was the idea of putting a song at the end there?
We were hoping to. We had talked about it before we were kind of locking everything up for Sundance, and we were like, it'd be nice to have a song, but then we just didn't have time. We were literally like finishing the movie as we were flying to Sundance. It was like very late in the game, and it was like, that time is gone. But then we had a little time. We knew we were gonna have until later in the year before we released the film, and so we revisited it. And Bryce is incredibly connected. He's in the National, and then he's scored all these amazing films, and he's just incredibly connected in the music world. And when we were trying to think about like who would be able to like strike this delicate balance of some of the mystery, some of the sadness, but some of the hopefulness, like all these different elements from the emotion at the end. And Nick Cave was the one who came to mind. We approached him. This turns out was like one of his favorite novels. One of his favorite pieces of writing, and so Joel helped connect us with Nick, and then he liked the movie, and then 2 weeks later we had a song, and he collaborated very closely with Bryce on it in writing it. It was beautiful.
So great. Well, I got a chance to see it when it was at Sundance, and I got a chance last night because Netflix was nice enough to send me the film just as a reminder before I did this today. And we watched it last night, and my wife, who loved it the first time, says, "Oh, I want to see it again." "Oh, okay, well, you're going to see it now because I don't have any time tomorrow. I got to do this." And so she watched it, and then at the end, when you're flying that plane and the whole thing, she is in tears again. And I remember the first time she saw it, same thing. This is such a moving scene to see your character up there seeing the world that he hadn't seen from that vantage point.
It's, I mean, what do I say about this movie? That when I read it, I remember thinking how beautiful it was for a number of reasons. You know, this idea that movies are so, heroes of movies we think are supposed to be, you know, so dynamic that they're there, we're watching them, you know, save the world, and big things, they're generals and all sorts of stuff. But, you know, if you actually move the other direction and realize that the majority of us sitting in the cinema see ourselves as regular, ordinary people that don't move the needle of the universe. And I think we also sit in the cinema seat, not just to be launched into the world of someone else, but hopefully to reflect something of our own experience back to us. And you know, as much as there's something gentle about Robert's life, I do believe that marriage and being a parent and these massive experiences of grief are such epic things that we all are going to go through in this small time that we have on the planet. And so to watch Robert's life play out as a series of memories, the idea of like life's moving too fast, but we look back and go, how abundant and excellent life is. And even some of the toughest stuff, the memories of that are still special. And so I think this movie is there for everyone that sits in the seat and sees themselves just one of the worker bees of the human race, and that, you know, there should be more people like Robert out there, and it's good to watch that celebrated heroically on screen.
Well, tell all your friends to see Train Dreams. Thank you so much for coming out here, everybody. Yep.